What's up, everybody? This is the Ike's Inspirations podcast, and today I have a great guest named Adrian. Adrian is a mobile home real estate investor, and he has a very interesting story to tell about real estate investing. So, I'm having him on. Adrian, can you do us a favor and just introduce yourself? Tell us about the audience and what you're about.
Yeah, Ike, I appreciate you having me here today to help hopefully enlighten people about mobile homes. But then, I do have an inspiring story. So the short version of my story is I started my real estate investing career as a tenant. A lot of us move out from home and we just move into someone else's home as a tenant. Well, you don't want to rent to 20-year-old Adrian and his friends because we had parties. We had spaghetti wrestling parties, mud wrestling parties, pudding wrestling parties. We even have an eviction notice for parking a motorcycle in the living room.
Wow.
So again, you don't want to rent to 20-year-old Adrian and his friends. Well, what do? I'm a problem solver at heart. And actually, I think that's how we help the most people. We bring the most value as a business owner, as a real estate investor, is solving a problem. So I solved the problem by buying a house. I moved all my friends in that helped me get evicted. I started to learn why we were bad tenants. I did something really smart at that moment. I divided my mortgage up amongst my friends.
Wow.
So that I lived for free.
Wow.
Living for free at 20 years old, not with mom and dad, is really, really cool.
Yeah.
What I decided to do next, a few years later, I said, well, why don't I do this again? Went back to the bank. I said, I want to buy another house. He said, you can, but you're going to lose a little bit every month. Don't worry. They said, real estate goes straight up. You'll refinance in a few years. So I did it. I didn't have any other influence. A few years later, when I went to refinance, well, we were in that great recession, so the real estate market was going down.
Uh-oh.
I couldn't refinance.
Oh, man.
I also had an adjustable rate mortgage, so I went from losing a little bit every month to a lot every month.
Ooh.
Well, eventually the pain exceeded my ego to be right and hold on to this,
Yeah.
and I let the home go as a short sale.
Wow.
Ding to my credit, ding to my ego, but really the biggest thing, it was a ding to my integrity. I didn't do what I said I was going to do. But I didn't lose the value of real estate because that first home, I had bought it right and I was renting it right to my friends. So a few years later, I ended up buying some more houses. Then that short sale in the back of my head, I kind of kept me, we'll say, grounded and a little almost scared of the market. So I've been wrong about the real estate market for a really long time. But that drove me to find mobile homes. And then I got, we'll say, addicted to mobile homes because they produce better cash flow. There's less competition. They're recession resistant. They're serving an underserved population. So these are just a few of the reasons I love the mobile home investing space. I focus on the single unit with the land, and that is where I found my success. So that is like the quick of my 20-year journey as an investor.
Wow, well, thank you for sharing your story. I really appreciate it. And it's just very interesting to me to hear how, you went from being evicted to essentially being a landlord. It's kind of like the circle has went all the way back round, which is cool. And I'm glad that you're grateful. One of the questions that I have is, so how exactly did you get into mobile real estate investing for homes?
So back when I got into it, I couldn't find any formal education about it. I really decided to get into it because I was going to these real estate clubs, and whatever in me told me, talk to the seasoned investor. Usually they're in the back of the room.
Yeah.
If they have hair at all, it's gray and shiny because they've been in the business longer than I've been alive.
Yeah.
Well, a commonality I found is they all mention mobile homes in some way or another. In some way, they use them in their career or they still own them. So I decided, all right, well, I'll check out these mobile homes. A friend that I had made at that investment club, one night, Jessica says, Adrian, my broker has a mobile home that they need to sell. Would you be interested? So I went and bought it. I made some mistakes. And then I saw, still even with the mistakes, a lot of the cash flow. I quickly, because I'm an action taker, I went and bought more mobile homes. Within 2 months, I bought 2 more. And then I decided, all right, I'm shifting my business over. All of that, though, to say that's one reason I got in the education world, because there wasn't anyone really out there teaching it. And I wanted to help shortcut some people that are interested in it and give them genuine education.
Yeah.
So that, you can do it, we'll say, the hard way, or, that is one of the reasons I teach.
Yeah. So, Adrian, I'm curious because, you talk about mobile home investing, and honestly, I've heard of it, but no one around my area talks about it. I grew up in Boston, Massachusetts, and right now I currently reside in Atlanta. And I'm wondering if it's a rural thing or if it's because I don't know if it's a city thing, but basically I've never heard of people talking about mobile home investing. So I'm just curious, where are you located, and do you feel like that's a topic that should be spoke up more about?
So you are very common. Most people have not heard of them. Generally, yes, it is a little more rural. So if you're in the Atlanta market, because I know that market, they are outside of the city.
Okay.
They are there. There's a lot of cities that are there. Boston, I'm not so familiar with Massachusetts, but I know there's no states that there's no mobile homes in.
Yeah.
So you might have to go a little bit further out. One of the reasons is the cities get property tax dollars based on the structure. Well, they get way less on a mobile home than a taller structure. So they don't like them. Even if they say they want to help affordable housing, they also are in business. They need tax dollars. Now, where's my business? I grew up and born and raised in Florida, Central Florida to be exact. Well, to be exact, it's Plant City, Florida, where the winter strawberry capital of the world. So to kind of give you an idea where it is, if you fly into Tampa and you decide you're going to drive over to Disney and see Mickey, about a third of the way there, you pass Plant City.
Awesome.
Now, we have a lot of mobile homes in the area, so it's not been that difficult for me. So I made my buying area within 30 minutes, a really tight little diamond, because I can. Now, my Wisconsin friends, their neighbors live 30 minutes away, so they have to have a bigger area that they buy in. So it kind of depends on where you're at, but in general, you hit it right perfectly. They're more rural.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And, it kind of makes me want to just learn more about mobile home investing and your experience, because where I come into real estate is I do it more on the residential side. And I own a few properties, but I've never heard about mobile homes. I'm just kind of wanted to learn about some of the benefits about mobile home investing in your personal experience. Do you feel like the process is easier? Do you think it's easier is it less capital required? Does it take less time? Just what are some of the pros and cons of mobile home investing in your opinion, Adrian?
And you say you don't know much about it, but you've been hitting all these things perfectly.
Yeah.
Yes, it's less capital required. It's a little bit easier to get into. There's higher demand. But let's break this down.
Sure.
And I think before I get into that, I know there's going to be some listeners out there that are confused on mobile homes. They're like, well, I think of a park, or I think of a unit within a park. So if I can, I'm going to quickly break down the 3 main ways to invest in mobile homes. You can buy the mobile home park. Big, sexy numbers, lots of zeros on the end. That become more competitive. The big hedge funds got into this space years ago. Mm-hmm. So the returns are still good, but they're not as good as they used to be. There's 2 main ways to run a mobile home park. You can own everything, all the homes, the land, everything. You own a flat apartment complex. The other way to run one is you own just the dirt, and people pay you every month to park their mobile home there. We typically call this lot rent. Some areas of the country like to call it space rent. And you own a big flat parking lot. And then you can have a combination of the 2. I am not actively investing in this. I do have some money in a syndication that's in that world, but there's a lot more government regulation in that world. It just doesn't fit me. There's more competition, so I'm not an active investor in that. Now, you could also own just the unit within the park. So you own an aluminum box, and you pay someone every single month to park your mobile home there. A lot, right? We talked about. This is not a real estate transaction, but it's your cheapest, meaning like your lower dollar entry to get into real estate because it's still providing housing. It's a really high return on our investment, but we don't have any dirt. We don't own dirt. So we lose some of the control to the park manager, the owner. I have used these in my career. They helped build some momentum and get there even faster. I'm currently don't have any. Will I buy some again? Yeah. And typically our strategy with those is to do owner financing. A lot of times we'll buy them and then sell them on payments to someone that's going to live in it, which means we do have to comply with Dodd-Frank. These are, again, really good return on our investment, recession resistant, and low dollars to get in. I found my niche, though, in the middle. It's this forgotten little asset class. That it's a single unit, meaning it can be a single wide or double wide, but it's one structure, and we own the dirt. We call it a homeland package. So it's a real estate transaction, but the difference of the single family, like you said you are, we're in the single family space. They didn't build the home right there. They brought it on wheels. That's really the difference. Now, yes, there's some difference in construction stuff, but to really break down the difference, that's it. It can be a neighborhood that is all mobile homes. People own each individual parcel. It could be a dead-end street that there's a mobile home, there's a house made out of wood, there's a house made out of block, and it's all different structures. It can be an acre and a half way out there in the boonies or somewhere off of a dirt road. It's an acre and a half and has a mobile home on it. So it can be all different scenarios. But the one I like the best, again, is owning one unit with the dirt, the real estate transaction, because I get the control. I still get a great return on my investment. It's recession resistant, and not that many people are after it.
Wow, yeah. That sounds great, man. I can definitely understand the benefits of why you would want to do that. Especially with the cash flow, that sounds like a really good way to cash flow in a great way. And, you sound like you've been doing mobile home real estate investing for a while. I'm just kind of curious, Adrian, how long have you been doing this for, and about how many transactions would you say you make a year?
So I switched my business model over, I think 8 years ago.
Okay.
From the single family, like concrete structure. In Florida, we have those hurricanes. Like you get the aftermath of a hurricane, not the hard winds. So I've always been scared of mobile homes because they're going to blow away. That's becomes a hurricane missile, or some parts of the country a tornado missile.
Yeah. So
I brought up with that mindset. But then one of my mentors said, "Well, there's 1965 still sitting around." I was like, "So?" And he replied to me, "Well, they've been around and through more hurricanes than you have." I was like, "Oh, he's right." Now they are still a risk, so we have to buy accordingly. That's one reason they're a higher return on our investment. And we still own 1965. Actually, my first one I ever bought was in 1965. So that's why one of the reasons I made it to that niche. Now, I have had years, a big year for me, for my speed, was 14 transactions.
Wow.
I'm not someone that, I'd have friends that do that a week and a month.
Wow.
That's tiring to me.
Yeah.
But in my mega growth mode, I did 14 in that year. Nowadays, it's like 4 to 6 in a year.
Okay.
I just average it out. I'm a little bit slower cadence, we'll say.
Okay.
But I buy really good deals. So I'm not buying real thin margins that I have to do volume. I'm more of buy really good deals.
Yeah. So just knock it off the park. Yeah, man. I hear that. That makes a lot of sense. And I kind of like that philosophy because I feel like it probably puts a lot less stress on you, and you don't feel like the need to constantly keep buying and buying if you're just getting a really, really, really good deal, which makes a lot of sense. So then the question becomes, how do you know what you're purchasing is a real good deal?
Okay, so my main business is to buy and rent long term. I do wholesale some.
Okay.
And if I wholesale, yes, I have to do my comms a little more traditional. But because I am the buyer, I don't do as traditional ARV. I will look at that, and that can be a little more difficult. We'll say on an older mobile home, let's break down older to a 1960s and 1970s. It's harder to find real good comps there. When we get to the 90s and newer, we usually can find some decent comps. The 80s are kind of like a transition decade. So I will look at comps. I will look at land value. What is the dirt worth? You know, if a hurricane comes and blows it away next month, like what am I stuck? Well, what am I left with? And then I actually factor in the headache value, which cannot go on a spreadsheet anywhere. So I annoy the wholesalers out there. If this property, this area is going to cause me a headache, well, I just want to get paid more. Mm-hmm. And so I'm willing to deal with headaches if I get paid appropriately. Mm-hmm. So I kind of calculate in that manner, and I look for a high return on my investment. And I don't love putting numbers to it, but I will, because everyone's definition of a high return is different depending on where you're at in your growth mode. And I got stuck in a spot at one point that I did not do deals that I should have done because I was comparing that potential deal to some of my mentors that really talked about their great deals. Because when you get in a room with investors, usually we talk about our best deals and our worst deals.
Yeah.
And that's all I heard. And I didn't hear the average deal, you know, the singles and doubles for the baseball analogy.
Yeah.
I heard the home runs.
Yeah.
And so remember that lesson when I throw some numbers out there.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So now the older ones, the 1960s and 70s, we have a higher risk because of the hurricanes. Right now, we cannot get insurance in Florida on the 1960s and 70s. There's no bank financing. So we can't sell it as to the open market. I look for typically a 30% return on my money. All in cost, purchase, rehab, closing, everything that's there, I want a 30% return. Okay. Which is one reason I do less deals.
Yeah.
But, you know, a 30% return on my money grew pretty quick, and I hustled to find those deals.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really hot. Like 30% is great. I was gonna say, I would imagine like finding a deal of that return is probably difficult, right? Or is it how do you go about finding those deals?
Well, you know, our mindset has so much to do with it, and when we think it's difficult, it will be.
Yeah. When
we keep ourselves that open, that it's available and it's there, we find it, or we help create the deal.
Gotcha.
So how do I find most of my stuff? I'm a networker. I tell everyone that I do. I'm there to solve problems. Wholesalers don't see any value in them. They don't understand them. So they really just bring them to me as a bird dog fee instead of a wholesale fee. So I just save a few $1,000s right there. And then realtors, same way, because realtors get paid on the closing price, right? Well, mobile homes have one less zero. So realtors a lot of times don't want to do the same amount of work for less money. So realtors have been a great lead source. I help them, I educate them about mobile homes. I'm a resource for them. And every once in a while, they're like, Adrian, will you just help Sally out and buy her mobile home? Of course I will. And again, I keep everyone in the deal. I make sure everyone gets paid. Because if I pay you, who are you going to call again? Me. So I'm a big networker because a lot of us, and I was guilty of this for a while, leave money on the table because we don't understand mobile homes. So I'm just like, call me, I'll help you out. So that is a main way, but we can do all the traditional marketing. I have bought properties using Google AdWords, using Facebook ads. I love the signs on the side of the road. The yard signs are bandit signs. I think I did 3 years of them at $50 a week, never missed a week. And, you know, we had 8 months that we bought nothing. But then when I bought one, that one was a wholesale deal. It paid for 3 years worth of signs.
Wow.
So it's just kind of pushing through that grind of the downtime of kind of getting discouraged.
Yeah.
But I'm really a problem solver when it comes to these older ones, because there's no financing. Insurance just disappeared at the end of 2023. We cannot get insurance in Florida on an older mobile home, older than, we'll say about 1980s. So we have higher risk just right there. I help people understand and educate them about mobile homes, but that's like one step. The next step is getting people comfortable on the really old ones. So we have less demand for them. So supply and demand means that we have a higher return on investment.
Mm-hmm.
The flip side, though, is the newer mobile homes. So we'll just say 1990s and newer. There usually is a little bit more demand. We can get some bank financing. The public, the retail market can get some bank financing. So that means we have some more demand on it. I have found these are usually a little bit larger tracts of land, a little bit more desirable. We can get insurance on them. So our supply and demand is not out of whack there. But we also get a little bit more appreciation, I have found, in those. So those, I'm getting mid-teens, really, on my return on my investment, which is still a really good return on my investment. Yeah. I'm always looking for at least double digits.
Yeah, that's great, yeah.
Now, when I was in mega growth mode, I wanted closer to 30% because I wanted to grow really fast. One of my coaches, Ken, he drilled down into me, asking over and over. He's like, what is the one thing you're after? And I kept saying, like most of us do, well, I want some cash flow. I want some appreciation. I want some depreciation. All these awesome benefits we get from real estate. He kept coming back to me. No, what is the one thing you want right now? And I finally answered it. I wanted cash flow. Because cash flow pays for my life. It pays my mortgage. It pays my food. It pays my travel. Like, that's the thing that comes in over and over. It's a predictable income. Big checks is a job, flipping. And I'm not saying we shouldn't flip, and I'm not saying we shouldn't wholesale. Like, they're good tools.
Yeah.
But my main focus was to create cash flow.
Okay.
So I focused only on cash flow and gave anything else away if I needed to partner with people, which is one reason I focused on the 1960s and 70s, because I wanted to turbocharge my growth.
Understood.
Where I'm at today is a different spot. I'm not looking to grow as fast.
Okay.
Now I look at some, I call them lotto tickets, appreciation, because we're never guaranteed. We never know when the top of the market is until a few years later.
For sure.
So now I'm like, okay, I'll take some appreciation. I used to wholesale appreciation stuff to get big chunks of money to then put it back into cash flow. So today I'll look at a 12% return on my money if I think the land is in the path of progress, that a builder's going to come and say, I want that land. And I say, great, I want a big check.
Okay.
And until then, I'm going to cash flow it.
Yeah. So can you, I'm very interested to hear about your change in mentality from, you seem like you were all about growth in the beginning of your real estate career. And it seems as you've gotten older, you're less focused on growth and more stability. Can you kind of explain that change in mindset and why you feel the need to, not really focus on growth as much?
I love that question. I wish more people asked me that question.
Yeah.
It's the different stages of life I've been in. So when I was in mega growth, I wanted to build the cash flow. My goal was to retire my wife at the age of 29.
Okay.
There's obviously some benefits to the family there, but honestly, there was some ego there. I wanted to say I did this.
Yeah.
Most people can't say that. So what we did is we put together a plan. We knew our bare minimum, not going on vacations, but to pay our bills, we needed $5,000 a month. We already had $2,000 a month in net passive income. And I stress the word net. So saving for the repairs, putting money away for taxes, paying our mortgage, like the actual leftover money for us. So we had $2,000, which means we needed $3,000. We knew at the time our average income from the rentals was $300, which meant we needed 10 properties. So we put up a board, a big whiteboard. We bought the cheap one from Home Depot that was just the whiteboard. You usually can't even erase it real well because, we're frugal. And we put 10 lines down it. And then we put 10 lines for the addresses, 10 lines for the amount of money. Put the 123 Main Street, $165. And then $165 out of $3,000. The next property, $400. And you start doing the math. And it was a visual to see where we were at. All right, so now we have the cash flow. So now it's very easy. Like, she could retire, which did not mean she goes and sits on the couch. So she got the power. So she loves being an RN. So it gave her the power that she could say no and quit and go and work where she wanted. She used to help in the back end of the business, and now we worked her out of it because it's not her passion. So then, you buy some more properties, and let's just say you get $300 more a month. That's all fun money. That's $300 and go toward a vacation or, buying something nice that you don't have to have. It becomes easier for that. All right. So we're always wanting to do that. Now, as to get to your question, because I know I got a little long-winded here.
It's okay.
Today, we have a different spot. We want a little more security in our life. We're looking to have kids soon. So we want a lot more security and predictability, because I don't want to be out there working every day and all day with kids. So predictability and security of building the business that way is more important today for me than it was in the past. And I have, our age has to do with it, our risk tolerance. Back then, I could screw up, and I had tons of time to go and fix my screw-ups. I have a little bit less time today than I had in the past. If I was in my 70s, I would not be taking the risk I'd take today. So we just naturally start taking a little bit less risk, I think, as we get older and as we have, more people depending on us. Worst case, she would not like it. I would be less up to it. But, if we lost everything when we were in mega growth mode, could have slept in a tent or on someone's couch. Kids, I just don't want to do that to my future kids. So it's where we're at the time of the type of risk we're willing to take. So that's why I've transitioned a lot of it. And I'm more forward thinking on that right now.
No, for sure. I love your answer. I mean, essentially, the reason why I asked that question is I'm always curious about what drives people to keep on doing whatever endeavor or craft they're doing. And I feel like the reason that you said makes a lot of sense. Essentially, you have a family that you care for, and you want to essentially decrease the risk of something terribly wrong going on. And I completely get that. I feel like that comes with age and that comes with wisdom. There was a quote on Instagram that you had that really spoke to me. And you said you tell yourself you're doing this for your family, but in reality, you're doing it to your family. You want to talk about that? Because I feel like I really like that quote because I'll share something about me. One thing that's a little pet peeve about me is like you will hear wealthy people, like whatever type of endeavor they're doing, they're like they could be multi-millionaires, multi-billionaires, and then you would ask them, why are you doing this? And they're like, I'm doing this to provide for my family. I don't want to be mean, but no offense, it's bullshit. If you're a multi-millionaire, you don't have to do this anymore. You have so many you have so many assets that can allow you to continue to, so I hate when people say that. I'm like, you're doing this because you just love to do it, or you don't want, you want something to do it. But I'm trying to understand that quote that you said, because I feel like some people need to be more honest about why they're really doing something,
Man, you are asking some of my favorite questions of all the podcasts I've been on.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So I agree. And I've been guilty of it. I'll share in a second. I believe what you just described really is significance and ego.
Yes.
Is what's driving those two. And we all have it, the need for significance and our ego. And I'm on this journey now, so I'm speaking from where I'm at today on it. I believe that learning where that's at, we can use our ego the right way, because ego drives us. I mean, wanting to retire my wife at 29 was an ego play.
Yeah.
But did it benefit us? Yes. But if I kept doing it, like you said, that becomes damaging.
Yeah.
And so some things I did wrong with that is, we say we're going to watch a movie. And, I'm going to do something real quick in the office. Well, 3 hours later, I'd come out like, well, I thought we were going to watch a movie. She's like, yeah, 3 hours ago. Well, I thought I was doing that for my family to go, I need to get another deal. I needed to get another deal. I need to do this. I need to do this. There's never enough. That never, ever ends. I know people with hundreds of thousands of dollars in the bank as security nets with more money coming in a month. And we get trapped in that cycle that there's never enough. And I don't know how to fully combat that yet. I'm on that journey to be cautious of what you're saying. Yeah. So that is one of the why I built my education brand, Lifestyle REI. Now, I am all about building a business that serves our life versus our life serving our business.
Nice.
And I'm not perfect at this.
No, yeah.
You know, I have moved into not liking the term balance. I like the term harmony. So what does that mean? There could be some weeks that I work a lot of hours. And then there's weeks I don't work at all. I have actually turned my cell phone off for 1 week straight before. Yeah. Zero connection to the outside world.
Yeah.
And then there's weeks, like I said, I might work 60, 70, 80 hours a week. Yeah. Where I'm at with that today is, so she's an RN still, which means she works 12-hour shifts.
Okay.
So I do a lot of, on her work days, because she enjoys that, I stack my day long.
Yeah.
I'm not going to work probably 12 hours because that's draining on me, but I stack it heavy and I get a lot of stuff done. Her non-work days, if I do schedule some things, but it's much less because I want to be with her. And you know, it's an amazing question that you have. I'm on that journey. I think we're always asking ourselves that, why are we really doing this?
Yeah.
Like, when is enough? We always want more flashy things. You know, my big money item, the first one has really got me excited. I don't care about a Lambo. I don't care about a lot of the nice cars. For me, I'd go rent one versus own one. And I still haven't done that. But the thing I want that's big money is I want access to a private jet.
Okay.
And I've only done a little bit of research on the money side of it because honestly, it scares me. The amount I know it's going to cost. But I'm not about it for the flashiness. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
To have the flashiness of it. I want to buy my time back.
Yeah.
Because of the amount of small airports. I can't remember. There's like 4,000 something more small airports in the country that privately you can fly in and out of, which means you get closer to your location. You don't have to deal with TSA. You pull up and you get on the plane. The amount of time I can buy back, which means I can go and spend my time around the country with friends.
Sure.
And not, you know, maybe I can go to a friend's birthday when I have kids and still be back the same day to tuck my kids into bed. That lights me up.
That's awesome.
About it. So it's the time thing. And that's one reason we have to make more money. Because I look at buying my time back. You know, do we mow the grass? It's an easy job. But if we can pay someone else and get another hour of our day back and go and, if you're going to sit there and scroll on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, did you really buy your time? Like, you know, not fully bashing it, but what'd you really do with that time? If you wouldn't spend it, even if you're just watching TV with a loved one, that's buying your time back and going and really being with someone you love, or recharging yourself alone so that you can give all to the person you love. That's a good use of money for me.
Yeah, no, man, I love your answer. I think it was very honest. I think it was very straight to the point. And I just think it's needed. I'm always I'm always so curious about why people do what they do, what drives them. I think it's very important. And I know it just really takes me off when like people are insincere and they're like, I'm doing this for my family. I'm like, working 60, 70 hours a week for your family? That doesn't sound like a family, you know what I'm saying? So I have no problem. If you say, hey, I want to be a billionaire, I'm not judging you. I just kind of like the sincerity. And I think trying to get a private jet is awesome. Like, I think trying to buy your time back is awesome. Yeah.
And I don't think these people purposely think they're hurting families. Like, I have some friends in the education world that would travel over 50 weeks a year, and they would come home and like not even know where their family's doing.
Yeah.
You know, it did shock me when their spouse said yes, she would do it all over again. That honestly shocked me.
No.
Because that's not my mentality, but that's not my place to judge them of what it did for them in the big picture.
For sure.
I just value that time a little bit more. But in general, I have seen that trend that people realize I didn't need to create this big monster.
Yeah.
And if you look at all the interviews and stuff they've done with the dying, they never talk about, I wish I would have worked more.
Yeah.
They talk about, I wish I would have done more experiences. I wish I would have been with my family more. And, you hear that. And then last year, I had a close friend pass away younger than me.
Oh, wow.
And that was probably my closest, it was my biggest wake-up call.
Wow.
That, I'm 40 and he was 39.
Wow.
Like, I've had then I had a cousin just a little bit older than me, her mid-50s, that passed away. And, we think we have all this time.
Yeah.
And you have, I heard all this, but I didn't embody the emotion.
Until you experienced it. Yeah. No, I love what you're saying. One of my favorite quotes in life is, they say the essence of life is in relationships. And, I don't know, as I get older and stuff, I'm beginning to learn, like, man, life is really about the type of people you have surrounded about you. And they're the reasons that give you purpose, whether it's having a great wife or having parents that you want to serve and help, or just trying to inspire other people. I feel like what really gives you purpose in life is the quality of your relationships.
Yeah, I love it, man. And how fortunate are we to learn that at a young age?
Yes.
Where I think the previous generation learned it older than us. And I just look at that as such a blessing. And I hope my kids learn it at even a younger age than I learned it.
For sure.
But I mean, what a blessing that we learned this. And now we have to figure out how to do it. Obviously.
Yeah.
Because it takes money to do it.
Yeah. And it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to do it, because, you want to have that good, as you would say, harmony, where you don't want to be too broke because you got to pay the bill, but you don't want to be so upset with money that, like, you forget the stuff that really matters. So I agree. It's a balance, but I definitely agree. One of the things I'm curious to hear about from you, Adrian, is what is one of the biggest failures that you ever went through, and how did you overcome it? It can be a personal thing, or it can be in real estate, just in general.
Well, that short sale I talked about,
I mean,
that's definitely there. It was the ding to the ego. I love that it happened now. It sucked in the moment. I can't give you the exact reason. I thought back on this. How did I really get through it? And how did I start using it to fuel me? I think part of it was I had that experience of the house that was working, and I focused on that. No one told me to do it. I don't know why I did that naturally, but I focused on that versus the failure. And so that was one of them. Probably my more recent and the biggest impact in my life is my wife and I had some relationship challenges.
Wow.
And a little bit of it was, like we said, me pouring more into the business. There's no one thing. It's thousands of things on both sides that I think cause it. And the long story short, we did get divorced.
Wow.
And some of the most painful years of my life.
Wow.
We are now dating. So I am dating my ex-wife.
Congratulations.
My joke is that's how you know I'm good at investing in trailers. But I would not go back and trade any of that terribly painful time, because we're both way better people for ourselves, for each other, in the world.
Wow.
We learned from it. We chose to go and learn from it. How did I do it? I very, very, very fortunately, I was already in some mastermind groups. I already understood coaching. So the mastermind groups helped me just cry and be vulnerable when that is a difficult thing to do in our society, especially as men. Yeah. I don't like it, but it's still it's way more difficult for us as men to cry in public and to be vulnerable. I'd love to see that change, and I hope that I'm strong enough one day to help that change.
Yeah.
So being in the closed room, to have those people to pour in. The coaching side of it, I already understood coaching because I had benefited from it more on the business side, but I understood it. So I hired a relationship coach, and she helped the two of us understand each other to not fight back. And we still pay her today. She's now my relationship coach with Erin, my girlfriend, ex-wife. She's my relationship with my friends, my parents, myself. she just helps me understand my thoughts better by asking the right questions.
Wow.
And I'm a huge fan of coaching and mastermind groups because you get to let down that guard that as much as I hate that I still do it, we do it when we're outside.
Yeah.
The fake book world that they call Facebook, that everything's only the beautiful stuff. It's one reason that I attempt to share some not so great parts of my life on there. I don't want to spread negativity, but it's not realistic that everything is perfect all the time.
For sure. No. Well, first of all, thank you for just sharing that. I really appreciate your vulnerability. Second of all, I'm just really curious. What was the process of divorce like, and how did you overcome that? Because I'm still relatively young, but I feel like one of the most hardest things to get to go through is a breakup. And I feel like the longer the breakup, the more painful it becomes. And as men, I feel like this doesn't get talked about often. You sound kind of vulnerable. You sound kind of weak talking about your breakup. Especially if the girl left you or whatever the reason was. So it could be hard. So, I'm just kind of curious to hear, how did you get through that? And what was that process like?
And great question again. I did not leave my support group. My friends some friends I didn't let know all about it because I just needed some cheerful areas, to let's go have fun. And then I had some friends that I got closer with because, we cried on the phone together. Another man cried on the phone with you was ridiculously weird at first.
Yeah.
And then, now it's a beautiful thing. And I wish society we did it more. So I poured into that. I focused, but very fortunately, I was already into self-help, the woo-woo world, the mindset.
Okay.
I was already a very big fan of Miracle Morning by Hal Elrod.
Okay.
So I went to my friends, my friend Teresa, she called it Team Smude. That there was a kind of a core of them. And I just said, hey, this is what I'm going to do. And it would be the simplest thing. I mean, sometimes it'd just be a text to Aaron, or it was like something I'm thinking about doing. And I asked for permission because I knew I wasn't in the right mindset. And sometimes they said, yes, that's a good idea. And other times they're like, are you an idiot? They said nicer words than that. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they explained to me like, oh, I'm an idiot. So I did that, but I didn't leave. I had a short time that I left my morning routines and what works. One of my coaches, Ken, he says, your basics. So what is it for you? It's different for everyone, that when you do that, your day and your life is better. For me, it's my version of my Miracle Morning.
Okay.
For him, a lot of it's like his workout routine. And so it's, when you do that, everything's better. So do it. And so doing that, I got much deeper into the mindset, really deep in my meditation practice. I got alone with myself, which was scary, uncomfortable, terrible. I realized I hated being alone with myself in my own head.
Wow.
Well, now I don't hate that, but man, you get in some dark places when you just no podcast, no music, just you. Yeah. I did 3 straight days of that.
Wow.
And that was difficult. But it really helped me process some of the stuff. I know there's more, but I'm coming to a little bit of part. Yeah, but it's the people.
Yeah.
I didn't go into my little hole, which would have been easier. Because then I didn't have to face any of it. I didn't just bury myself in a little hole. I said, I need help. Will you help me? Will you pour into me? And really, I gave those people the gift of pouring into me. Like, they got lit up by being able to help a friend.
Yeah. No, man, this is awesome, man. I love everything you're saying, and it kind of goes back to what I'm saying about the essence of life is in relationships. When you do go through that breakup, the first thing you want to do is sometimes it takes a lot of strength to admit where you went wrong and holding yourself accountable. And I'm glad that you're able to share that, and it's just very interesting that you talked about, hiring a relationship coach. I'm just kind of curious, like, what does that entail, and like, how exactly does she help you with relationships?
So Kathy Neubauer is, in my opinion, massively expert on personality tests. So most people have heard of the DISC profile.
Yeah.
There's some love languages is another really popular one. So she has us do a handful of them. The Enneagram, it's a much deeper, more complex personality test. The apology language, the
one I'm familiar with is the Myers-Briggs personality test.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one of. So a lot of people are experts on one of them.
Okay.
And now that I'm through all this, it's like it's kind of silly to think one personality test can tell every single person in the world their whole life.
Yeah.
Like, we're not that simple.
Yeah.
So she's an expert of reading them all and saying, because this one's saying this one's not saying this, let's talk about this. Like, so she intertwines them all and then asks a lot of questions to get feedback. And so some of the best things that happened to Aaron and I is we fought on Zoom. We got in a fight with her, like with each other, but with her. And she was able to dissect it.
Wow.
And ask me questions, helping me realize why I said something that I didn't mean.
Yeah.
But it was my reaction.
Yeah.
And then help her understand why she took it the way she did, knowing that I didn't mean it. And then the other way around. It's some of the best things because we started understanding ourselves and understanding each other better. And we're not perfect at it now, but we've greatly improved. You know, you said like when you're in the cycle for a long time,
yeah,
it just slowly happens over and over. And all of a sudden you're just like, man, this has been annoying me, and we blow up.
Yeah.
I've been following Jay Shetty a lot.
Yeah. Love his podcast.
I love him. And I'm reading one of his books now. He talks about learning to fight more often. And we're going through that journey right now. I am a recovering people pleaser and she is a recovering avoider. Okay. But when you have a people pleaser and an avoider, you don't fight until it's something big and it's a big blow up fight. And the analogy he uses in his book, he talks about the socks left on the dirty socks on the floor. You see it and you're like, and you pick it up. And the next time it's a little bit more annoying and eventually it blows up. Well, if you say something the very first time, you're going to say it kinder because it's not that big of a deal. Yeah. But if you can address it early and learn how to fight, and it's like just saying that out loud sounds bad. Like, I don't want to fight with her, but that's not reality. We're humans. We're going to fight. But if we can learn how to do it with love and from a side of sitting next to each other, he talks about, now we're on the same side of the table, working together to solve the problem of the disagreement.
Yeah.
Versus the other side of the table, we start like fighting each other when really we're on the same page. All we want to do is solve this problem.
Yeah.
So that's where we're at with it right now. I can't tell you more of the solution than that. It's all great theory.
No, yeah, but it's easier said than done.
Yeah, we're on that journey, and the journey is never going to end.
Yeah.
And to wrap that kind of back to the real estate world, because I think communication is the same.
For sure.
Us talking, Aaron and I talking, a seller. So how do we relate that to a seller?
Yeah.
Well, if we're sitting down with a seller, having a conversation, looking for their problem, how can we solve that problem together?
Yes.
Well, now we can solve the problem that actually benefits them, and hopefully we're a piece of it to make money.
Yeah.
So sometimes I solve the problem and I'm not going to make money. I'm not in the deal.
Yeah.
But I'm there to solve their problem. And when we solve problems, we make money overall. So it's not that different. Managing properties, most people are really bad landlords and they get burned out and don't continue.
Yeah.
I think most of that is a communication problem and an expectation problem.
And I love everything you're saying. They say communication can save a nation. And I feel like honestly, the root of a lot of issues between interpersonal relationships is a lack of honest communication. I feel like sometimes when people are having arguments, I feel like emotions cloud what you're actually really trying to say. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like sometimes you might think you're being honest, but what you're really doing is just expressing an emotion that's kind of stopping you from saying what you really feel or what you really actually are trying to get to. And I think the better we can be at honestly communicating, the better our lives will be, and that's something I'm constantly trying to improve. I'm trying to be a better communicator with you, with all my loved ones, and everyone I do business with, Yeah.
Yeah. Can I flip the script a little bit and
Yeah,
ask
for
you
sure,
a question?
man. Yeah, for sure.
How did you get interested and so insightful so young? Like, I'm jealous.
Oh, no. I appreciate it, bro. I don't know, man. Thank you for that. I'm just incredibly curious about people, and I'm very interested about learning how the world operates. And so I think the best way to do that is by asking questions. And I feel like God gave me the ability to ask great questions, so I just want to keep utilizing it. That's all I want to do. I don't want to, yeah.
And I totally agree. You ask fantastic questions.
Thank you, Adrian. I appreciate it. And I feel like that's just a sign for me to continue asking questions to great people. Okay, yeah. So moving forward, another question I have for you is, what's the best part about being Adrian Smude, and what's the worst part about being Adrian Smude?
Well, because I'm a more self-critical person, I go to the worst part first, which is I'm pretty hard on myself.
Okay.
Which dovetails into that people pleaser world. If people caught the term earlier, I'm a recovering people pleaser because I believe in the power of our words. And if I say I'm not a people pleaser, that's just fake. That's not me. My brain won't accept it. So I'm in the transition of being a recovering people pleaser. And I used to be super hard on myself. I'm better at that now.
Okay.
And that there's some beauty behind it, because that means I elevate my quality, my products, the quality of what I do. But it can be very unhealthy when I get alone in here, hence not wanting to be alone. So that is one of the difficulties that come quick to mind. A recovering perfectionist, I'm way further down that journey.
Yeah.
The people pleaser side of it. And so the best part, I think it's what we just talked about. I learned what we just talked about pretty young. I think in overall, and decided to do the hard thing to gear my life that direction. I think back a lot to seeing a lot of people say that their parents were right.
Yeah.
After their parents had passed away. And I'm very fortunate that I started accepting that while my parents are still alive. And because I think most of the time, most of our parents are right. There's always an exception. So just kind of learning everything we're talking about and not building the business.
Yeah.
And having kids that I never see.
Yeah.
So I think that's some of the best. I'm all about having fun. So I have a vision, a life vision. I have business vision. So it's like, what do I want this future life to be? So learning that, so then I build all this the right way. And it's one of those, I'm so strong on that doesn't fit my vision. I'm not going to do it. I frustrate a lot of people in mastermind groups because they're like, well, you could make so much money or more money.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, but that's not fun for me. This is fun, what we're doing right now. This is one of my favorite podcast interviews I've done.
Yeah.
And I do a lot of these. It's fun for me to get on here and talk.
Yeah.
A lot of people look at this as work hours. I'm like, sign me up for more. Like, I have fun. And part of it is I show up and talk. You do all the hard work behind the scenes to make sure it's edited and it gets uploaded. I show up and have fun.
Yeah. And simply be yourself.
Keeping life fun, and how can I overlap that and be able to make some money while having fun? I'm always looking at that. How can I make some money and have fun? And fun is a different thing for everyone.
No, I love it, man. You said so much great things there. When you were talking about your parents, I had this. The first thing that came to my mind is like, when you're a teenager, you're probably rebellious. Like, you were in your 20s, you got evicted for kind of being a clown, and you probably thought you knew it all. Like, we all had that.
Well, I did know it all.
and I'm not gonna lie. Looking back, I kind of felt the same way too. And then as I've gotten older, I'm looking back, and there's just times I'll just call my mom and dad, and I'll be like, "Yo, thank you. Like, I love you for raising me the right way. I love you for helping me be a better man, and for making me the man that I am today." And I feel like that's something that you probably don't start to appreciate until you get into your older 20s and 30s. You know what I'm saying? You start to go through life yourself, and you see how difficult life can be. You see how many problems it can be, you know? And I can't imagine once you have a family, I don't have that. I don't have that blessing yet. But when you having a family, you probably see how, like, parenting is like when they were you can see the similarities, I would bet, you know? Right? And you could probably think they're just trying their best, just like our parents are, you know?
That's beautiful. I can't imagine, so not being a parent yet, just knowing so many of my friends that are parents, I can't imagine there being a better gift than that phone call you had with your parents. That's probably the best thing you ever given them, was that conversation.
Yeah.
And it cost no money. All it costed was lowering our ego and being vulnerable and saying what we thought.
Yeah.
And that's not an easy conversation. I mean, I still remember transitioning into telling my dad I loved him every time I got off the phone. Get off the phone. It was so weird at first. And why is that weird?
Yeah. It's a weird thing.
I did it all the time.
Yeah.
Guys, it frustrates me why it's so weird.
You want to know what's so funny? I'm slowly getting into the habit of doing it too. And it's definitely something I'm not used to. What I would say, instead of saying I love you, I would say I appreciate you. and I know it's a slight difference, but I felt like for me to say I love you was a weird thing, bro. Like, I know what I'm saying. But I just had other men, I'm lucky enough to have other emotionally vulnerable men start saying the same thing to me. I felt like it was only right to reciprocate it back, you know? Yeah.
Exactly. I have some just guy friends that they're the ones that made it weird on me first, that would say love you as they hung up. And I grew up in a Hispanic family where, like, we don't just give a hug when we see each other. We give a kiss on the cheek. That's kind of worn off because of America. But, like, I grew up in that environment. Guys kissed on the cheek.
Yeah.
And it was still weird to say the L word. It's just, why is that weird? Why would we create a society that's like that?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm gonna be honest. Even me, it's still a little bit weird to this day, but I'm getting better at it. And I think I don't know. Maybe it requires a lot of strength to say that. You know, I don't know. But when you say it to a woman, it feels natural, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I have the same thing.
One thing that helped accelerate my growth there is, I mentioned I had a friend, Bill, that passed away at 39.
Yeah.
And yes, it hurt and it was painful, but I didn't have anything unsaid to him. Our last conversation was absolutely beautiful. All of our late night, he was known for keeping you up until 3 or 4 in the morning talking. And I didn't feel like, man, I wish I would have told Bill, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just the peace that brought me, that because I didn't know it was going to be my last phone call. I mean, it was a sudden, basically a heart attack, a sudden thing. Did not know that was going to be my last phone call with him. So I've kept that mindset. This could be the last phone call I have with someone. I don't want to leave anything unsaid. So that's what's helped give me more courage to do this. I am on the journey still today.
Man, I absolutely love everything you're sharing, and I'm glad that we're able to talk. And I feel like we're both being very honest and vulnerable, so I appreciate that vulnerability. It's kind of good to learn not only somebody about their business, but I truly created this podcast to learn about who the person truly is. I'm just kind of, what makes me interested in them is the result of the stuff they do. But I feel like that's kind of a result of their internal character, which I'm truly interested in. So I'm glad that you're sharing your story and who you are. Another thing I just wanted to learn about is, I know you're an author. You created a book called How to Buy Mobile Homes. Oh, nice, dude. You got the book. Awesome. Yeah. I'm just curious to learn, what was the process of writing a book like, and how long did it take you? I'm just curious myself, because one of my life goals is I want to create an autobiography of my life. And try to make it as inspiring and as valuable to people as I can. So I want to learn while I still can from people who are actually done it.
Well, definitely write a book.
Yes.
It's amazing growth-wise. It's amazing what I've done with it. So my book, when I wrote it as my journey through real estate, and then through it, I'm teaching how to buy mobile homes. I did not write it to, we'll say, be inspired. That was not the goal. But I've had many people not in real estate read it and say it was a really inspiring story. So I'm very fortunate that that just happened to happen. So how did I write it though? Is I hired a coach. I already understood and believed in coaching. And I had Hal Elrod, one of my favorite people to follow. He recommended a company, and I was like, all right, well, Hal has already built enough rapport with me through his podcast. I will meet him one day, and I have not met him yet, that I trusted him. So I trusted his referral on the company I hired, and so I hired a coach. So I already understood coaching, so I got that ego away. So I just said, all right, well, what's my task? I will get my homework done. I didn't have to look, well, what do I do 10 steps from now? That's the scary part. All I needed to do is focus on this next month. And so I did that. And so I was in remedial classes all through school. And so they called it SLD, slow learning disability. If you were a kid and want to make fun of me, it was slow little dummy. So just depend on what, which side you are of what the meaning was. So I like to do things that people don't think I can do, and same with myself. So that's why writing a book, I was like, well, it was terrible at English and grammar. So I did it for that purpose and to give back. And I knew that being an author built credibility. I heard all these things, but I didn't feel it until I read some of the reviews on there. Like somebody, I just go back, I'm having a low day, I'll read the review, and I'm like, it just lights me back up because of the impact I've had by writing a book. So I hired the coach. During writing the book, I learned I'm dyslexic.
Wow.
So like I said, I knew I was in remedial class, but I actually finally learned I'm dyslexic. So one of the things I say is, if a dyslexic guy can write a book and a dyslexic guy can build mobile homes, so can you.
Yeah.
And it's not to poke fun, it's to be inspiring. Like, no, it was not easy. It was difficult.
Wow.
I just kept at it, small step at a time. And it's written, I think, at a 6th grade reading level, because that's the level I write at. If you want a higher reading level, well, I'm not the book to buy. So I've heard over and over, it's a very easy read. And I'm like, well, because I don't know how to write higher level. I'm not writing about neuroscience, so I can't do that.
Yeah.
So it's very relatable in that way, because I wrote it like from me.
Yeah.
So definitely write a book one day. Don't wait too long. It opens up doors, but it also, you just learn a lot about yourself.
Yeah. And you actually answered my follow-up question, but I guess, because the question I was going to ask you was, what have you learned about yourself from writing the book? I mean, one of the biggest things you learn about is being dyslexic. Have you learned anything else interesting about yourself as a result of writing this book?
Yeah. So one of the things that I truly embraced learning from it is I really like to write. I would have never guessed that. It's one reason I started a blog. I started writing and had all these like posts. I was like, I guess let's just start a blog. So it's almost therapeutic for me to get my thoughts on paper, and then why hoard all those thoughts, share them. And I have also learned part of this is the dyslexic, which usually has a trait of ADHD. So I'm kind of slightly on the dyslexic side. There's kind of a spectrum.
Oh, okay.
I'm not like to the extreme where everything is backwards. And so I have learned that if I'm going to write, it's first thing in the morning, usually with a cup of coffee. If I try to write after this episode recording, my brain's too far. I'm too high energy now. I'm excited.
Yeah.
That focus, it's very difficult then, which means it's draining. So I learned the time and use my strengths at a certain time of day. So for me, first thing in the morning, cup of coffee, because the caffeine for me helps me focus and just write. And another thing that luckily the coach helped me with was, you do not edit while you're writing.
Okay.
2 different pieces of the brain working, editing and writing. So you just write, which can be a little hard when that little red squiggly line is there. Yeah. You write, and then you go afterwards and do the edits. I did not do this, but I learned later that some people would turn their brightness on their screen all the way down, so they couldn't see what they were writing.
Oh, wow.
And they just let it flow. So, that's for me. Some people, their flow state might be the middle of the day, or it might be the evening.
Yeah.
It's learning about ourselves and where our zone timing is.
For sure. I like that you said that. My personal zone timing is just like you. I'm a morning person. That's when I'm most effective, most productive. Later in the evening, once it comes time to do like kind of any critical thinking or stuff, my brain it's just like I can't think anymore too. So I'm glad that you shared that. And those are some really interesting tips you said about writing. I would definitely when I'm writing a book, definitely consider that, especially the brightness thing. I like that. I have a few more questions for you, because as you come, I'm coming up with all these questions. It's just interesting to me. You talk about coaching. And it's very interesting because I feel like coaching requires like a dissolvement of the ego. It is something I to an extent struggle with. Sometimes I feel like I have a trouble trusting that the coach is gonna get me to the output of where I want to be. How do you deal with coaching and kind of humble yourself to learn, but also kind of be a student?
You're gonna like this. So I was listening to a podcast, and the guy was talking about, he was trying to sell his coaching, and I did not end up going with him, but what he said is, he says, Michael Jordan, at the peak of his time, had multiple coaches.
Oh, wow.
Why do you think you're better than Michael Jordan? And I was like, oh, it was like mic drop. Like, and whoever you like, I'm not even a basketball fan.
Oh, I love basketball.
I love and respect Michael Jordan. So
yeah.
Kobe Bryant or whatever sport you're looking at. Start researching those people. They typically have massive amount of coaches, and the more successful, look, Michael Jordan's an example. He's successful in business.
Yeah.
He's not just a basketball. He is all over the place.
For sure.
He has coaches all over.
Yeah.
When we look at other athletes that kind of fizzled out afterwards, they didn't usually have a business coach.
For sure. No.
They stopped it there. So it was just like that ego, like, how can I say I'm better than one of the best basketball players in the world?
Yeah.
We're not going to go down the argument of which side, who's the best.
No, you're better than Michael Jordan, Adrian. You're better.
Yeah, that was the thing that just gut punch on me to really get me over it. And then, it still took time to lower the ego and stuff. So my very first coach was a business, or still is, he's still my coach now, is a business and life coach.
Okay.
Which I really hadn't heard of the two, and I'm very fortunate that was my first. Yeah. Because if we hire a life coach, they're going to be coaching us on life, which probably is going to be skewed to don't work as much.
Yeah.
And if we hire a business coach, it's probably going to be skewed to build this business.
Yeah.
But one that can do both is going to help us keep that balance or harmony.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think it can be done with two different coaches. If we have that vision that I talked about very briefly, I'd want to give it to both of them so they know the other side of the world so they can coach appropriately. Yeah. And, it's one of those, you have a little experience with it, and then you get addicted of like, it shortens the success curve. So the hockey stick curve, it got me there faster. I would have been successful without it, but it got me there so much faster.
Yeah, and I love that you said that. It's something that I'm trying to be better at. I'm trying to, I wouldn't say I'm the most arrogant person. I'm actually very positive and easy to work with. But sometimes it's hard for me to kind of feel like my mentality with some of these coaches is like, what can you do for me that I couldn't do for myself? And I know that's kind of an ego thing, but it's kind of hard for me to accept that I need help. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to do a better job of that. And I've recently been surrounded with different coaches. One of the coaches, I this is irrelevant, but I started DJing, and I have a DJ coach. You know what I'm saying? And that's been pretty fun. So, but I'm kind of noticing that the more accepting I am of coaches, the better my life also intends get the quality of my life increases. So,
can I add one follow up? I know you want to move on. Is for me, a good coach doesn't the way I need to be coached. Does not tell me what to do, because my personality puts a little ego wall up. No, will you say I'm wrong?
Yeah.
A good coach for me asks a lot of intelligent questions like you do to make me think, and then give the answer that's for me. So, and I'm giving the answer that they probably would have told me.
Yeah.
And they already knew. But when it comes from me, it's more.
You actually want to do something about it. Yeah. Man, I love that.
That has been huge for my style. Some people need to be told directly what to do.
Yeah.
So you kind of have to figure that out.
There. I love that, man, and I like that. Yeah, I think sometimes it's like, yeah, no one likes being told what to do, but even if they're telling you the truth, but when you come to that realization for yourself, you're more likely to actually act on that insight instead of somebody telling you what to do, right? Yeah. No, I love that, man. And so my last question to you, Adrian, I had so much fun talking to you. This conversation was very honest. It was very introspective, and I learned a lot. And my last question to you is, knowing what you know now, what would you tell your younger self, and how would that kid respond?
This is a tough question that I'll say pondered a lot. And I think another way to word this question is, how do I want to raise my kids? Because usually those are the same thing.
Sure.
They're worded a little different. And we've talked about valuing the hard times a lot, and how I do value that, and I would not go back and undo the really tough points of my life. So I'm gonna skirt the question a little bit, and I will come back and actually answer it more direct.
Sure.
Today will say the way I plan to raise my kids is to let them fail, which I believe will be the absolute hardest thing as being a parent, is to not shove a pillow underneath them, being a metaphor, and stop them from failing. I want to pass on how to recover from a failure quick, the mindset, teach them the value of meditating, teach them the value of being, having a coach, teach them the value of these things so that they can recover from the failures. So we are going to have failures. I think that's one of the challenges in our society right now is, for whatever reason, we think that we shouldn't have them. Mm-hmm. And so I want to set them up for that, and how to be happy. Just be happy in nothing and not have things. So what would I tell my younger self would be somewhere on those lines of to lower the ego quicker.
Okay.
And to get over myself, with the air quotes, to trust the process of people that are smarter than me, to consider my parents being right at a younger age. I wouldn't tell them, but I'd ask myself to consider that. So along those lines, I would not go and undo the painful, big mistakes I made in life, because I wouldn't learn the lesson.
Yeah.
I need to touch the hot stove, as an analogy. I need, unfortunately, I make the mistake, and that's the way I learn that better than you telling me I'm going to make a mistake.
Yeah.
But equipping myself to bounce from the mistake and use it as fuel instead of getting me down, it would be somewhere along those lines.
Yeah, I love that answer. Sometimes you can say all you can provide all the words and knowledge to people, but oftentimes you just got to experience it yourself. And that's why everyone, and I agree with the quote, experience is the best teacher. That's where you really start to learn and internalize the wisdom that I feel like we all are seeking and all need. So I love this podcast. It was great speaking with you. I definitely plan on staying in touch. And for people who are curious to learn more about you, or maybe want to reach out to you, or perhaps do business, or just, talk to you, how can people reach out to you, Adrian?
Yeah, I'm on lots of social media platforms. You're going to put a link, I know, in the there. It's lifestyle-rei/Ike. It's all lowercase. That's going to give you 14 myths, the debunk of mobile home investing. But I think what relates to this conversation better is, yes, you get that. It helps you upgrade the business side. But you're going to get your email for it, and then you're going to get my blog. And my blog is about real estate. It is about mobile homes, but I include a lot of mindset stuff. And because we went much heavier on that, which I think is way more important, which is also why I write a lot about it. I think that if you got a lot of value from this conversation, you're really going to enjoy that.
Awesome.
Of my blog. So that would be probably the best way. Social medias is another way. I'm on a lot of them. I'm personally active on Facebook and Instagram. I don't even know how to log into my X account because, well, I'm old. So we didn't have that, so my VA helps and people on my team help with those. So that's the best way to get a hold of me. And this has been one of my favorite. I've done hundreds of podcast episodes, and truly this has been one of my favorite. You asked such good questions.
Thank you.
You brought us to the conversation that is truly important.
Yes.
I mean, you can read my book and learn how to invest in mobile homes, but if you don't have the right mindset, you're not going to.
Yeah.
So what's really important that we don't want to hear is the questions you asked. And so thank you for asking it, because it's been fun for me, but then you're getting the information out there, which is what we need.
And I love what you said, Adrian. I'm gonna be honest. Going into this podcast, I did want to talk about business, but I didn't want it to be so business oriented. I really wanted to get to know you as a person, and I feel like if somebody wants to learn about real estate investing, they're gonna have the desire to do it or not. You know, I mean, there's only so much information you're gonna provide, but sometimes I feel like you said, it's more about the mindset. It's more about why someone is doing something, and it's what really driving you. And I feel like if people can answer that question for themselves, their life will incredibly enhance, because they're being true to what they really want to do, and why they want to do it, So thank you so much, and I appreciate the compliment, Adrian, and I will stay in touch, and I love you, man.
Yeah, love you too. We're definitely going to stay in touch, because I'm excited to watch your journey. You're going places.
Thank you, boss. I appreciate it.